Most people are not aware of Immanuel Velikowski. He wrote Worlds in Collision, and of course, he caused a storm of reactions in the established scientific world because of what he wrote of after observing Saturn and our solar system. He lived between 1985 and passed away in 1979. We're going to look into what he believed and if it's feasible or not. Now, Einstein was a friend of his, and Einstein had his World in Collision books of Velikovski on his desk when Einstein passed away. He was obviously reading that book. So, Immanuel Velikowski theories that caused a storm of reactions in the established scientific world. Who can narrate the human past, and especially the unrecorded, or what we read in the mythologies of various ancient civilizations? Probably no one, not even the historians, archaeologists, scientists involved. But if someone claims a different theory from the one that the establishment considers to be more correct, they immediately downgrade him, accusing him of being a scammer who promotes pseudoscience at a time when even they cannot prove their own theories. Well, Immanuel Velikowski is also in this category with the label of the pseudoscientist. It sounds like an outcry in prevailing thought in 1950 when he published his book Worlds in Collision, declaring catastrophic destruction recorded in the Holy Bible. And he obviously he was faithful, and he believed that this happens every once in a while, and it's divine providence. Now, anyway, it's repeated in other ancient texts as well, such as the Egyptian texts, the ancient Greek texts, the Mayans, and many other ancient texts of other peoples, where some spasms of the universe only support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. We know we have scores of scars on our Earth and on the Moon and on Mars, scars from impacts. And we even had the heavy bombardment. We also had the Clovis comet about 14,000 years ago, and we also had the dinosaur asteroid. I believe now that if you see yesterday's videos, it could have been a double asteroid impact in the Yucatan Peninsula that gave us the extinction of the dinosaurs. Scientists believe that 90% of life in marine life and also 70% of land life became extinct from that impact 66 million years ago. So in 1950s, he published Worlds in Conflict, Worlds in Collision, saying that the universe has chaos and spasms once in a while, that our ancestors once in the depths of antiquity witnessed, and in fact firsthand, particularly important events that occurred in our solar system and affected the geological and human history on Earth. For example, there could be changes in the orbits of Venus and Mars that caused the two planets to move closer to Earth than they should, causing floods and other catastrophes in the past, such as the deluge, the Great Flood. We know that before the flood, we didn't even have rainbows. Something was different. Something changed with our sun, the rays of our sun becoming more intense, giving us rainbows, because we didn't have rainbows before. So obviously there were great solar system changes and great earth changes from this flood, recorded in the Holy Bible. Now, if there are clues, thoughts, opinions, or even theoretical evidence that differ from the established version of our history that we've been taught up to now, why should all this be rejected? Why can't those who hold the scepter of academia give plausible answers to the gaps that arise from the theories they create and accept themselves? Since they are unable to do so, how can they so easily reject other theories that could potentially fill the gaps, like the theories of Immanuel Velikowski, Worlds in Collision? Now, many people give the impression that, at least for some things, they live in a disguise and methodically move away from the real image of the truth, whatever it is. Now, from the Cactus edition, this is what we read concerning Immanuel Velikowski. He was born in Vitebsk, Belarus in 1895. He studied at the universities of Edinburgh in Scotland, Krakow in Ukraine, and Moscow in Russia, from where he graduated in 1921 and worked as a doctor in Palestine. He continued his studies in psychology in Zurich and Vienna. So he was all over Europe, and he must have been a polyglot. I mean, he must have been very well educated in many languages as well. Zurich, for example, Swiss, Hebrew in Palestine, English in Edinburgh, and of course Russian. Now, in the years 1921 to 24, he also collaborated with Albert Einstein in the publication of Scripta Universitatis. In 1939, he immigrated to the United States and became a naturalized American citizen. A scholar of the mythology of the Mediterranean people, he argued that they often, escaping from the realm of myth and allegory, refer to real events. Velikowski hypothesizes that in historical times already, an electromagnetic disturbance of the solar system brought the planets Mars and Venus closer to our Earth, which thus underwent a series of changes. Okay? So he's talking about prehistoric times, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Mars and Venus came closer to Earth and thus underwent a series of changes. Earth, that is. He cites evidence from the field of geology and paleontology for the geological changes that, according to him, shook our planet. Newer scientific observations from spacecraft have verified many elements of Velikowski's theories. Now, just yesterday, the day before, I posted videos concerning the poles that flipped 84 million years ago. And the time when we had the Cretaceous period, when the Earth was basically Pangaea, and Antarctica and the Arctic were closer to the center. The Arctic has been found to have been tropical. The same thing with Antarctica, that it had rainforests as we have in the Amazon. Okay, this was at the time when all these areas had dinosaurs. So something happened to the Earth that very significantly changed the tectonics of the Earth and also the pole shifts of the Earth. So Velikowski has this theory. Now, Marcus Allen of Nexus Magazine lecture refers to one of the most controversial theories ever put forward, and it was finally, as was to be expected, rejected by the prevailing science and history, those of Immanuel Velikowski. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. Now, going to The Worlds in Collision, the book written by Immanuel Velikowski, who died at the age of 84. Immanuel Velikowski, Russian-born as we said, writer whose theories about colliding planets entertained an outraged scientific world of his time, but it mesmerized millions of scientific buffs. He was trained as a physician and psychiatrist in Moscow during the early 1900s, and Dr. Velikowski studied Freud analysis of the subconscious mind of Moses. That work, coupled with his own vast knowledge of mythology and biblical lore, led him to embark on an unorthodox lifelong course of study, summarizing his famous book, Worlds in Collision, that was published in 1950. And since then, the book has appeared in 50 hardcover editions and more, in various languages. Dr. Velikowski's fanciful theories centered on his belief that a fragment of the planet Jupiter, later identified as Venus, careened through the heavens around 1500 BC. That's at the time of the volcanic eruption of the volcano of Thera, Santorini, in the Aegean Sea. That's also the time of Moses' exodus and the tribes of Israel from Egypt. So he identified this fragment of planet Jupiter, identified as Venus, later careened through the heavens, a fragment of Venus around 1500 BC, according to Velikovski, and lightly brushed against our planet Earth, causing a series of catastrophic consequences. Earthlings have since tried to forget, hence the origin of Velikovski's notion he called, quote-unquote, collective amnesia. Among other effects of this collision, according to Velikovski, were these: interruption of Earth's rotation, causing the oceans to spill, the leveling of mountains in some places, and their sudden establishment in other locations. And according to Velikovski, before Venus proceeded on its troubled course, disturbing the heavenly peace for at least another 52 years after that. Now we know that the tribes of Israel, and Moses were wandering through the Sinai Peninsula for 40 years. So he says, disturbing heavenly peace for at least another 52 years, it sprinkled a trail of hydrocarbons in its wake, including, according to him, were drops of oil on the earth absorbed the basis of our petroleum industries, and even food, which Dr. Velikovski maintained and cited the Bible as proof sustained the ancient Israelites. I guess he was saying that this was the manna that rained from the skies. Well, I don't agree with him there, but anyway, that's his theory. Turning aside from the conventional scientific knowledge, Dr. Velikovski rebutted the argument of geologists who pointed to fossil tree rings as proof of an uninterrupted diurnal cycle in the world's history for the last 360 million years. Velikovski's controversial theory and his popularity with the lay public led some of his critics to threaten his publishers with boycotts, causing others to dismiss him affectionately as the grand old man of the fringe. So, with near religious zeal, his supporters point proudly to his acceptance by others, such as his close friend, of course, Dr. Albert Einstein, with whom he exchanged a lively correspondence and personal visits. An annotated copy of Worlds in Collision was found at Dr. Einstein's bedside after his death, the Velikovski supporters say proudly, according to New York Times, 1979 article. So, please leave your comments. What do you think about this? I don't know. Things surprise us. We find things all the time concerning space exploration, and we don't know too much about Mars and Venus yet, and their interaction with our Earth, or if pieces of them sloughed off to hit us at points in time. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support.